Problem 554. Perform each operation below and simplify your results. Letter A. X squared plus 4x plus 3 over x squared plus 3x times 3x over the quantity of x plus 1. So we're wanting to multiply our algebraic fractions, and we need to simplify. So rather than distributing your 3x through and everything here, let's factor what can be factored so that we might simplify here before multiplying everything together. X squared plus 4x plus 3 does factor. If you need to take a second there, pause the video, factor it. Okay, see if you get it right. So when you do factor it, you should end up with x plus 3 times the quantity of x plus 1 over x squared plus 3x. You've got a greatest common factor of x, so you've got x times the quantity of x plus 3. And then we're multiplying that by 3x over x plus 1 still. Now, as we look to simplify here, we're looking for factors that appear in both the numerator and the denominator. So, for instance, x plus 3 and x plus 3. If we divide x plus 3 by x plus 3, we get 1. The same thing with x plus 1 and x plus 1. So we have more or less 1 times 3x over x times 1 times 1. Now I'm going to rewrite this. We're not finished yet, but I'm going to rewrite it here because right now we have 3x over x. Now this is a monomial and this is a monomial, which means here that our x is a common factor. So our x's can actually, remember, nothing is being added or subtracted to either of these, so we can do that. So what we're left with here is 3. The value of a here, after we simplify down, is 3. Let's move on to b. b says y squared over the quantity of y plus 4 minus 16 over y plus 4. Well, there is nothing here that can be factored, so let's take it here. Now that we have subtraction, we know that we have to have the common denominator, and we're going to rewrite this as one fraction. So it's like saying y squared minus 16 all over y plus 4. Remember, there is only one y plus 4. This is the same thing as saying, 5/7 minus 2/7. That's the same thing as 5 minus 2 all over 7, which gives us 3/7. Same principle here, just our denominator is slightly more complicated looking because we threw all those silly letters and stuff in there. Now, after we have combined our numerator, we need to look at it. We can't combine anything else, but we do have the ability to factor this. This is a difference of squares. So when we factor y squared minus 16, we should get y plus 4 times the quantity of y minus 4. And that is still over y plus 4. In which case, if we want to try to simplify, we've got a common factor, y plus 4 and y plus 4, which simplifies to 1 over 1. And in the end, then, we will end up with y minus 4. That is our answer for B. Letter C now. We're looking at division here. We have x squared plus x over x squared minus 4x minus 5 divided by 3x squared over x minus 5. So remember, we're just simplifying. So the first thing we want to do here is make it easier to simplify. Let's turn it into multiplication. So our first fraction is not going to change. It is going to remain the same. Once we turn this into multiplication, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of our second fraction. We don't ever flip the first, just the second one. Now, let's look here. Can anything factor? Just like we looked in the first one, and we were able to factor something to help cancel down or reduce our fractions. So x squared plus x, we can factor out a common factor of x. So we're left with x. X times what is x squared? Well, that'd be x. And x times what is x? That'd be plus 1. So this factors into this. In our denominator, we have a trinomial, and it should factor into x minus 5 times the quantity of x plus 1. On this side, we have an x minus 5 still over 3x squared. As we look for our common factors that show up in our numerator and denominator, we've got an x minus 5 and an x minus 5. So those each become 1. We have x plus 1 and x plus 1 each become 1. And then if I multiply it here, once again, just like the one above, we're not completely finished yet, but I just want to look at what we have left. X times 1 gives us x. 1 times 3x squared gives us 3x squared. In which case now we've got a common factor of x in each of them here. So if you wanted to think about it, you can think about this as x over 3x times an x, which means we could make this 1. This could become 1. And our final answer, and I'm going to write it above it here, would end up being 1 over 3x. That is our answer for C. Letter D, our last one here, so we can finally call it a night. So we're adding two algebraic fractions, x squared minus 6x over x squared minus 4x plus 4. And then we're adding it to 4x over x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we already have common denominators. So one thing we can look at there, if you wanted to factor everything, you could. But since we have the common denominators already, let's just go ahead and combine it into one fraction and then factor it. So we've got x squared minus 6x plus a 4x, and that is over x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we're going to take this here, combine your like terms. We've got x squared minus 2x over x squared minus 4x plus 4. Factor each of them. We've got x times the quantity of x minus 2 over, when this factors, it should be x minus 2 times the quantity of x minus 2, in which case we can reduce. And we're left with x over the quantity of x minus 2. And that is your final answer there. So this is problem 5-54. This is Mr. Boyd. If you have questions, make sure you ask your teacher. I have to go deal with some annoying students that are at my door right now. So I hope that you have a good night.